Hello everyone. So this is an Ari, and I'm gonna go over my Radeyah siege list that I managed to put together. And this has been an absolute labour of love because if you've seen one of my older videos, I really tried to get this going before Master Mirror, but the issues it was hitting was really just consistency. The classic Northern Realms thing of draw your gods or lose, and it was really hurting the deck because it was so top end stacked that missing out on even one of those cards a lot of the time could lose you games. So I kind of had to give up on it after a while because there just wasn't the consistency needed. But with Master Mirror came exactly what this deck needed, which was consistency uh, in the form of Aneromancy, Amphibious Assault, and yeah, I feel like it's been an absolute blessing that this expansion's come for this deck because it's turned it from a deck that was like it was playable, definitely playable. I went positive with it. It wasn't like I was getting like a 20% win rate or anything like that. It was doing really well. Um, but there was a lot of games that were lost because of consistency, and cards like Aneromancy and Amphibious Assault really limit those kind of games. So just before I go over the list, so typical sort of thing, I'll go over the list, chuck in a couple of games, that sort of thing. Things to cover was my last video actually did really well. I was really happy with how it went. I'd done a six factions, six decks kind of thing, just going over the decks I'd be using this season, and yeah, it seemed to get quite a good response. Seemed like people were interested. So it's probably something I'll keep going with, and I'll probably do each month because I know that first couple of seasons in pro rank having to adjust to that. I need a decent deck for each faction can be quite difficult, especially if you're the kind of person that's been just playing like one or two factions up to pro rank. It can definitely be awkward to adjust. And even if you're just looking for something new, it's always good to just have some ideas thrown out. So yeah, I'll probably do that sort of thing each season, as long as people are interested. And other stuff. I'm probably looking at doing some videos on like non-deck stuff, more like general game concepts. So this is mainly because uh, I've been teaching my girlfriend how to play Gwent the last like week and a bit, and she's really picked up the game like ridiculously fast. And you may have seen on stream she's been coming on, and within a week she's already sort of picking up concepts and catching stuff that I myself have missed, that sort of thing. Um, and I've really enjoyed kind of going over that. The more like intermediate stuff, so things like temper, card advantage, when to pass, resource management, that sort of thing. So maybe do some videos, probably drag her in, do a couple of videos together, uh, and yeah, so that's probably coming at some point. So keep an eye out for those because I think they'll probably be interesting, quite informative. And I think that's all I really had to say on that. And obviously, a big thank you on the last video. I was really happy with the response. Because may shock you to know, not exactly a huge channel, um, but getting that kind of response is really nice. So I really appreciated that. So enough soppy nonsense of me going on. I'll go into the list. So we're running a engineering solution instead of I mean, at one point I was running Crystal Skull, but I feel like Engineering Solution pairs a little nicer when you're coming up against SK. And I guess it's down to personal taste. Crystal Skull would work perfectly fine instead. Even Tactical Advantage, if you've not got the scraps lying about for some of the stratagems, would be totally fine. Just a preference kind of thing. So then we obviously have Siege, and that's basically the basis of the deck. Getting Siege to go for some stupid points. And the reason we're running Mobilization in a Radeyah deck where we only have one copy of each card, and so Mobilization doesn't seem to make sense, is because we play it with Siege. It's only there to pair with Siege. So we play Siege, use Mobilization on the Trebuchet, it triggers the Chapter 1 of Siege straight away, and we're in a meta. I mean, we have been for a long time, where bomb heavers an auto inclusion in any non-diversion deck. So being able to tick off as much of your scenario as early as possible is really, really helpful. I was only running the trebuchet before, but because I'm stupid and I sometimes mulligan my last card, I've drawn into trebuchet a couple of times when I've got siege, and it feels super bad. So adding in the battering ram, because then if you draw into your trebuchet, you can then the next turn when you get your battering ram spawned by your next siege engine, you can then mobilization the battering ram. It's more susceptible to artifact removal, but it means that your leader ability isn't bricked, which is obviously great because I can't think of many decks that can manage their leader ability just bricking. So then we have an Aeromancy, which is an absolute MVP. I tried to get this deck working without an era for quite a while because it seemed so expensive, and I was thinking, like, can I justify when the top end is already so heavy putting in another 12p? And I mean, the short answer is yes. It needs to be in. Without it, it just doesn't have the consistency needed. So an era is absolutely amazing. I don't think I need to say anything about AA. AA is just incredible card, and considering we have an era which can get it and John Natalis which can get it, it's rare that you don't have access to it in round one. So really, really good card. So we have Radeyah, and I really like Radeyah in Northern Realms, mainly because Engineering Solution is one of the best faction stratagems. I mean, definitely when you look at factions like Skellige and Monsters, that they just don't compare to Engineering Solution. So it's definitely worth it for that. And there are like niche situations where Radeyah can be super, super helpful. So if you play her on the range row, you are gonna have to do a bit of prayer for some good luck. But there have been situations where, say, I've gone for like a Curse Scroll to then look for that last card I'm missing. If you're missing like an Ansis, you're missing Siege, something like that. Or you can get like a Purify off it, that sort of thing. It's really good for just, you have that option basically. You have that option to something that most decks don't get a chance at, being able to redraw a card during the game. So it's really good for the flexibility. So then the one that's probably questionable is Karathi instead of Bloody Baron. And I think this is like super meta dependent. I feel like at the moment Karathi performs better than Baron does, only because there's nothing super tall running about. Obviously there's like the God decks and things like that, but Karathi does much of the same job against God. It's playing for like 3 points less than Baron would against God, but it's getting a lot more value against like SK. It also doubles up as artifact removal if you're like super desperate. If you say miss your an era, you miss your bomb heaver, and Masquerade Ball or Passiflora has been dropped, and you need to get rid of it. Karathi is super nice for that, and it goes without saying, banishing is obviously super good against Skellige. So then we have Ansis, pretty obvious one, really really good card. Pairs really well with Radeyah. So the engineering solution that she spawns, giving Ansis shield and buffing him up to 8, means that there's not a lot that can kill him. Because of the way like duels work, Antis basically gets 16 points of damage off before he takes any in the duel. So unless your opponent has something that's taller than 16, and that's not going to happen a lot, Antis will kill anything. So yeah, really really good pair there. And of course Antis is just generally a good card. So an obvious inclusion. So we're running Surrender. So the reason I'm running Surrender is kind of because of the interaction with Siege. So Siege spawns a Trebuchet, which is damaging range row units. Our leader ability is going to get the other Trebuchet in. And so your opponent will be looking at the Siege on the board and think, why on earth would I play anything range row? Why would I give his engines any value I'll just stack the front row. What's he gonna do about it? And then that's when you whip out surrender, and it is very, very rare that I've ever got less than like 12 points of value from surrender. It just works so well, mainly because it's countering what your opponent's trying to do. So then we have Natalis for a bit of consistency. Egmont, really nice, just for like early points, usually like a round 1 play. Having access to 3 damage for a bit of small removals, really good. Frigate, doesn't need explaining. One of the more like niche bits about it that's really worked is because the volunteers are soldiers, I found I've got crew off a lot more consistency than I ever have with Northern Realms. I've kind of seen crew before as uh, it basically doesn't matter that it's there because it's super awkward to set up. But I've found should I need to, I can get like battering ram, siege tower, caraballista, get all of their crews off really consistently if frigate's already down. So then we have a boiling oil, mainly because it's warfare, it's 5 points of damage, gets drawn by Natalis. What's to complain about? So then we have a caraballista and a siege tower, which are kind of I guess the main siege engines we're running to make siege work, because they're just generally decent cards. 7p for 5, 7 points for 5p, sorry. And yeah, they seem to just do generally well. Just decent cards. Small ping, reasonably tall unit. Not too much to talk about or complain about. So then we have the trebuchet and the battering ram, which, as I kind of spoke about, mobilization needs these in the deck, or we basically don't have a leader ability. So that's why they're in there. If they're in your hand, you chuck them straight back. So then we have a bomb heaver, should be very obvious. Then we have a drummer, because drummers is just very, very good. Drummer's very, very good. So then we have a Mad Charge, which warfare card gets drawn by John Natalis. Can't get my words out. And a lot of the time, we're usually going to be able to get a knight down reasonably easily. So 7 points for 4, not going to complain. So then we have a Trident, and I kind of like Trident, mainly because although it's not the focus of the deck to like be stacking buffs, like we're not running Anna anymore in this list. So we're not super bothered about like Trident sticking on the board so we can like stack it with buffs and get loads of value out of it. But your opponent will have to respect the Trident because they know what it can do if we wear that kind of deck. And because this deck isn't like on like meta snapshots, like this is a homebrew I've come up with, your opponent doesn't know that that's your intention. It's there as like basically removal bait. And if it isn't removed, then great, you just put a drummer down and it gets its value anyway. So it's really good inclusion. We have a Mauler because decent 4p card. Need to fill out the 25 card limit. That's literally all it's really doing. So then we have a Squirrel, purely because Squirrel at the moment I think is really, really good. Being able to do with like an Aeromancy, Amphibious Assault, Egan in the graveyard, Blood Eagle, being able to remove a ball if you think they're playing double ball. It just ruins SK's day being able to mess with what Harold can pull. There's just a lot of stuff it can do. And we don't need the tempo. We got tempo elsewhere. Squirrel's not needed for that. So just having that little tech card in there that we can, like, it's particularly good like round 2 play. If you've been dry passed on, just kicks him out of his graveyard. You win the round. You're not having to expend anything more important. So then we have a Blister, just another siege engine, just to ensure that we always get siege off. And it's just generally quite decent. We have a Cintran Knight, again, just another pretty good 4p card. And I was running a Kedweni Knight instead, but the reason I'm running this instead is Kedweni Knight comes down as 12 from Amphibious Assault, which is really good, like 12 points and 110, great. Cintran Knight does basically the same thing. So Cintran Knight comes out of your deck from Amphibious Assault as 8 power and deals 2. And if it gets the death blow, it gains vitality for 2. And if that's, you've been passed on, and this is your player to win the round, um, both the vitality ticks will go off. So then he's coming down as 12. But the difference between these two, I mean, yeah, let's say he misses the death blow, and it's 10 points. It's 2 points less than Kevin Knight, and a lot of the time that's not going to be the difference. But the difference is this is just a huge brick to draw into. There's already tons of bricks in this deck, so like Heaver in some matchups, Squirrel in some matchups. We don't want to draw Trebuchet or Battering Ram. We have to be careful with Warfares for John Natalis, and I just felt like the deck was really prone to mulliganing into stuff that you just don't want in your hand. And I felt like this was just a step too far. It was just one more card that we were trying to avoid, and it just became super high rolly. So I really prefer Centurion Knight. So next card is Radeyah's, very obvious one, just very good 4p card. And then we have a Radeyah Knight because it's another engine your opponent has to deal with. So that's the cards in general. The general like game plan stuff. You ideally want to win round 1, but if you don't, it's actually where the deck kind of shines. I feel like because when building this, I try and sort of look at like what the meta's doing, because if you're building a homebrew, you need to be using the element of surprise that you're getting from not running a net deck to your advantage. So the way I like to play this is if we lose round 1, your opponent will think, right, it's Northern Realms. You need to bleed Northern Realms. They want a long round. And you can very quickly trap your opponent with that sort of line. Because in round 2, if they start bleeding you and you play Siege at the opportune time, the swing that you get from getting your reinforced trebuchet out, you use mobilization, you get 6-point trebuchet out, you then get battering ram down. That gives you 14 points on your side and 2 engines that are getting a point a turn, provided they have something on the range row. And that kind of swing, a lot of the time, puts you into a counter bleed situation where your opponent will be a card down and they just never get the card back, because if they try and keep going, then you just drop your Caraballista or something, Bombard goes off, and there's another 13 points in a turn, and then you activate your Battering Ram, there's another 3 points. So you have a turn where you get like 14 points down, and then 16, and you've got engines going, and there's not many decks that can sort of climb that mountain. So it really works really well in that it kind of goes against all logic when you're playing against NR. Best thing you can actually do is just dry pass and give a long round against this deck. So yeah, I definitely like the deck for that, because it really punishes the current like meta approach to Northern Realms. But then in short rounds, because we have the consistency cards and we have a lot of decent stuff, if it looks like it's going to round 3, I'm going to have a short round 3, holding on to something like an Anseis or like a Radeyah, or having your last Amphibious Assault just to pull like one of your 4p cards for a huge amount of points. Really, really good. We don't need Siege to win round 3. It's perfectly fine to play round 2. So I'll run a couple of games. Because I was playing it last night. It's from the stream, seemed to do really well, and unfortunately some bits of it were muted because I was playing some music and stuff, so stream ended up muted before I thought to download it. Could have just recorded it, but I'm not that smart. So unfortunately there is a game that's missed off there. There was a really nice one against SK, but just have to take my word for it, or it's on the stream. The VOD will be available on my Twitch if you are so inclined to watch SK get smacked about by this homebrew. So I'll run a couple of games and I'll catch you in the next one. It's definitely questionable, like, that we didn't pull it with John Natalis. But I don't think we'd have won round 2 if we didn't pull boiling oil to get rid of his skull. I mean, I'm still, as much as I love the card, I always consider cutting. I mean, now we hit We hit every consistency card, which is typical. I haven't played against Imperial Formation much with this list, but it seems I think it did quite well. I can't remember like fully how well it did exactly, but I'm feeling it did reasonable. I remember being pleasantly surprised. So there's no point using this. You know, this is most damage you can put out here is 4. Sorry. I mean, if he has an assassinate, fair play. Okay, cool. Fair enough, Egmond. This is definitely safe now. I mean, poison's obviously a thing, but I need to stop jinxing myself. Need to stop doing it. There's definitely an argument for putting some purify stuff in here, in this list. Mauler, yeah, it's passive, and I'm nothing if not passive when playing against Nilfgaard. I was explaining this to Rhonda, just being like, this is how important forcing proactivity from Nilfgaard is. Right, so we shut that down. Oh, it's meowing at himself in the mirror. Aaron. Oh yeah, okay. Brinty. Here you go, baby boy. Fair one. Fair one. So we'll just bleed and bleed and bleed. I'm not sure why you'd take a pass on 7 but play a gold. Like, it's questionable. Mad charge. Drop that. Tridim's reasonable to hold on to, I feel like. No, we need Ballista. Oh god, this hand. This is the only things we've missed. Shit, man. Okay, this is a hand. This is a definite fucking hand. What are we even doing here, man? We need to like shit, right, okay, let me actually think about this, right? So an arrow is probably gonna be needed for a heaver. AA probably for a drummer. So we'll just jam Radeyah. Because I mean there's no point me even trying to like pretend like I'm fucking going for it here. Because this is a hand that absolutely does it. And there's no point going for a long round, giving him better chances at drawing when this is basically the hand we want. I mean surely it would down a card and it's pretty gross, but there's an argument for even leaving that to go. Since it just makes our siege so much better. So, alternatively, what are we going to do? We're probably going to AA4. Redenian Knight, maybe. Maybe it's Caraballista. I'm not sure. So we're going Amphibious Assault, definitely. Actually, no, I think it's Drummer. It's Drummer because it just ticks away. And even if like Drummer gets killed, we have the point it's got over. I mean, we maybe don't even need to Karathi his Magma Division. Oh, You know goddamn well what's coming here, boy. Be somebody, I wanna be somebody good. So it is kind of, it's like, it's a really good pass, but at the same time, fuck that. Turn off this engine's pretty good. Cool. Ooh, wrong card. Alright, let's get it. Feels good, man. Now he has to decide between turning off his joust or just giving me more value. Looks like he's turn off my joust, turn off his Magna Division.
Okay, I be on some shit, that is why they can't get me. Chick with me, call it Tiffany. We in Tiffany's sight. I don't
I mean, it looks like we just fucking get here.
introduce her as my friend. She wanna meet my mama. She must be smoking woo. No parent teacher conference. I even told the school lies. They on my dick, it's no space. Somebody grab the ruler. I still got a few inches. When I enter, I rock my aura like it's jewelry in the spot. I need that paper now, not later. What you got?
Why commit these when we can just surrender? It all depended where that it landed. If it landed on the front row, then it's super gross, but fine. So obviously, like, this will die to Vincent, but is what it is. Vincent only plays for like, as it only plays for like 13, yeah. Cool. Much of a muchness there, isn't it? So Usurper plays for 13. So he gets his card back with Usurper. But for Usurper's like, what's he got left? Fuck it. Oh shit, maybe we just get maybe we just fucking get here. That's fucking close, man. Right, full leader. Yeah. So he's gonna have an answer, which is kind of gross. But yeah, that's okay. I mean, it's like, what even do we want here? Enter Knight? Guess it's... Now we just have to see if we can actually get here. So what's the worst he could have here? So how do we force proactivity here? Carabalist is reasonable, right? Nah, because it's a duel, isn't it? I don't know, we just... Like, this is the best way to go about it, just turn off that. If he 4-pings that, whatever. Jailbreak the Tesla. 9th grade, yeah. Prom days, yo. Raised by the internet, final stage, yo. We could do anything by that age, yo. Take a start, there was 2 for MySpace, yo. Had the iPod touch with the red snow. City up, but you could pop it on the app still. Never had security cams by the back doors. Nigga, this was LimeWire on crack, though. The touch was anything you could have asked for. Jailbreaking the 80 was hot shit, yeah. What if you could do the same for the whip, yeah? Turn the X into a Batmobile. Considering killing that. Get a Tesla and take it to West Coast Customs. Turn the touchscreen to iOS for fun. Then make the autopilot do it, don't I go dumb, man. Tell that nigga Elon, I'm sorry. Tell my mom to take the pictures ain't adjusted. Pull that doors up at the party. Like I didn't cop the shit for nothing. Niggas can't pull up in a Rari. But all you can change paint and some fuck shit. And you gotta try that shit that you fuck, man. Need some shit I can hack like fuck it. I mean, if I was him, killing that is definitely good. Okay. So, highest points. Probably just a mad charge. Probably should think about this one a bit more, but without his Nero or anything, like not an Nero, what am I talking about? Without like Inver, it's a bit more sketchy for a minute. Alright, cool. Eight points. Get there with roll guards, right? I'm not doing the maths. If it gets there, it gets there. It gets there. Let's get it. Deck's good. Deck's real good. Feeling too short with that. Too short. Amazing. Okay, perfect. Carryover is just not good. It does mean that we never deal with his god though. But I don't know. I mean, we're going into a probably a longish round 2. So there's definitely a chance that he may just pass on 7 and be happy with his position, but we have options at least. We have options. Good to see that. I don't mind holding onto the squirrel. Just kind of missing. I mean, we're missing Radeyah and an era. Yeah. So this is the old version. Alright, so we'll just get the bird out. So symbiosis. The symbiosis version, I'm still undecided on which one is like better. Okay, so this just like straight up catches a boiling oil. Just whether he's going to fight for the card here. If he does, then we can all but guarantee that we keep a card up. And seeing like, I mean, we've seen like Triscon, Treon. Okay, so he's playing Justice. Okay, so he's buffing his god. But the only problem with that is we likely just stay ahead of him indefinitely here. You know, maybe even dumping down Siege this round. I'm not sure if we will. But we always stay ahead of him. We don't have to be like super aggressive anyway. We can just you know, play stuff like this. Like if he plays, I reckon this will be a Forest Protector. Forest Protector to kill that. You know, that comes down to 7. He's at 20. Oh, it's just an Agitator, right? So we just keep pushing them. I'm really waiting to see like an Anero or something. You need to be careful about Ansis. If we need to Ansis, we're getting very tight on space. Have we got a knight? We actually don't have a knight. Ansis would be a knight.
Don't be anxious or impatient, 'cause
Yeah. No, we just no point jamming another one out. He's looking to get Shiru down anyway, but Shiru does knack all. I mean, sure, he can kill the 2s, but I mean, if you Shiru him for 2, what's the fucking point? Cool. And we've still got this shit to jam. So this probably catches a Shiru. We want to get rid of Squirrel as well, because Squirrel's really not doing much. Just because, like, if he only had like 1 circle life or like 1 rebuke, then like, yeah, sure, we'd probably hold on to it. But oh, I mean, missing an era is pretty gross, but it is what it is. So we'll just jam Radeyah. Or is it Redanian Knight? Maybe just Redanian Knight. We're probably just playing Siege as a. There you go, lad. Get your Shiru down. We want to set up a situation where Redanian Knight doesn't get caught by Shiru. So in terms of tall stuff, Ansis is probably being used to kill oh, what's it called? Forest Protector. Karate for his god. And AA is probably coming down for... I mean, AA onto Sintra Knight is really good. Like, setting up like super awkward health totals is really good against Shiru. Because he has a Karate. So he probably has like... His like best hand is probably like Council, God, Karate, something else. And in that circumstance, Forest Protector and something else. So in that situation we have Karate for his God, and Sis for his Forest Protector. I would assume Symbiosis goes off, so we AA for the Sintra Knight. We have Ballista for the Siege to get the final tick off. What did he do? Why did that like just get the buff? That was really weird. I don't know why that like only just got a buff then. What are we doing? What are we doing? I'll just jump this now. So he can Shiru for 12 points here. It's whether we just give up on the Ansis with this, because this just makes his Shiru even worse. And if he doesn't use it next turn, then Radeyah Knight doesn't get caught by Shiru either, because he probably wants to Shiru for 4. And like obviously Ansis is always getting caught by it, but and if he doesn't use it next turn, we just drop a Ballista, damage his board. We're pretty happy going forwards, because we still have access to all this nonsense. And I want him to get a Symbiosis proc off, just so I can bang down like a Sintra Knight or something. We do have other choices, like if Sintra Knight just isn't going to work. Okay. Circle. Ooh. So he's trying to set up his Shiru. That puts that down to 6, which isn't great. Putting that down to 5 is really good. Obviously we just killed the one thing that Sintra Knight would be good onto. But I'm fine doing it for like a Carabalista or something. Carabalista comes down as a 9 that deals 2. Like even here, like Shiru plays for 5, 6, or he can like drop me down to like 5, drop me down to 4. Sorry, take out Radeyah as well. But he's only playing that for like 12 points, and he has to ping his own. That plays for 11, because you'd have to do 1, 2, 3 pings, 2 damage onto that. Probably his best Shiru he's gonna get. Looks like he's going for it. Let's see if he's big brain enough. Okay, so he's gonna take out those. So he's playing for a decent amount, which is fair. Good shit, good shit. It's probably not enough though. So we'll just go for Sintra Knight, because he probably has a Karate, right? So that's always catching a Karate. I'm assuming he doesn't have a Heaver in hand. Is that like Karate God? Oh, it's just God. Okay.
Look at what the cat track did.
Hey, thanks for following Radeyah. Appreciate it. Just need to get the W now. Oh shit, he actually is the Sheldon Skaggs version. This is still fine though, right? Still get there. Feels good, man. We always get there. When do we not?